in fact, it's time for our book review segment as well. I mean, you also know that there are different genres within the novel space. Crime fiction entertains. But you also know that very few novels ask bigger questions about society at large. Now, I must say, Murder in Orania, it's the latest novel by acclaimed Nigerian writer, filmmaker, anthropologist Onyeka Nwelue, uses the gripping murder mystery perhaps to explore notions of justice, of race, of grief, of identity, and just South Africa's unresolved histories. Actually joining us now virtually, perhaps to explore and unpack this a little further through the conversation. So on that note, Onyeka, very good morning, and thank you for joining us at this hour.
Good morning, Lisa. Good morning.
I see you sent a hearty congratulations to Tsitsi Dangaremba, and she's a firm favorite as well. So that was a good start to the book. But I wonder if we can just look at this literary thriller, right? There's social commentary. There's also, from the onset, the notion of mediation on justice and also memory. Let's talk a little bit more about this and what you were aiming to explore through this novel, the heart of the matter, as it unfolded for you.
Thank you very much. I was going to tell you that Banda is one of my closest friends.
This is serendipitous,
yes.
So thank you.
It's strange that we brought him to the studio on the same day as me. Murder in Orania is a complicated narrative of what family love can drive people into. Yeah. You have Zuko, who has to go find the murderers of his sister-in-law. And what I'm trying to explore in the book is what is social justice? How do we get justice? And what racism is and can cause? What hatred can drive people to do? And it's more or less my own optical view of what a new South Africa might slump into with fiction, which is the best way to write about existential crisis.
Well, Onyeka, the title itself, I mean, one shouldn't get lost in the emotional connotations of the geographic location of Orania itself. But I know that there was a quote also from me that came through: the world, efficient in its indifference, continued. For me, it meant that life does move on, right? But sometimes victims cannot. Yes. And this is why it was important, from the onset, when you explore the court acquittal, the evidence that was mishandled, the institutional failures as well that come rather than the murders themselves. And that's not to downplay what happened, right? Talk to us about those notions that you explore, particularly through Zuko's journey of grief and how complex he alone is as a character.
Yeah, when you go online, you find a lot of young Black South Africans. When you remind them that there is a private property in South Africa where people with their skin color are not allowed to go in, it gets them triggered and riled up. They are angry. They say, no, it's a private property. But we also must remember that Orania has its own currency or its own financial transactional
exchanges
logo. Yes.
Yes.
So it's like a country in a country. South Africa being divided as it was before. So the acquittal of the murderers of Zuko's sister-in-law are above the law, right? And this drives a narrative that there are people in South Africa who are also above the law. And what is happening in most courts in South Africa, you see people being granted bail for more than the serious crimes, So the characters journey through injustice, they journey through poverty, they journey through segregation. But sometimes I try not to make it outspoken because I am not South African and I have no right to judge South Africa or East people, but I'm only writing a narrative that, if translated to the screen, could be entertaining and also educative.
Yeah, it's a conversation starter, and it's a vantage point as well. Leaves us with questions. For me, it was legal justice and moral justice, how oftentimes they're not the same thing. Perhaps even just how you're a filmmaker and you're an anthropologist. So the study of humans and history is really what you're able to delve into. It comes
I base my writing on studying human behavior more.
Exactly. So it comes through in the way you describe the prose, the restraint in the prose as well. How the characters, you know, they remember the gestures, they remember the little nuances. It's not always necessarily limited to the complete event itself, whether that's trauma, whether that's a mode of survival. It was very interesting. Tell us how you developed those aspects as well.
Like I said earlier, I have a lot of South African friends, and one of them is there. Yes. I study, you know, I love his music a lot, Vanda's music. And I have loads of South African friends. I lived in Johannesburg for about 3 years. So spending time in the city itself was more about observing the people, the behavior, characterization. So I have also written a book, The Strangers of Braamfontein, which was where I lived. So writing about South African characters is no longer a big issue for me, because of my exposure to South Africans. I have written Lord of the Sharks set in Soweto. I've written Paid the Xenophobia, 5 million rands. You know, I have written Home Affairs, a novel set inside Home Affairs department about a Home Affairs staff who takes bribe to renew the permit and visas of foreigners, and then falls in love with a Nigerian man who uses her. So it's a continuous parallel of my understanding and understanding the human predicament. And the human predicament is not different from that of a South African and other people. So the South African characters came out already built, already established. So there was nothing more to add. They are humans. So if I'm in Japan, if you take human beings in Japan and take them to South Africa, they are still humans. So every human character can be developed without thinking too much about it. But I also make the effort of understanding the human psyche, which varies from one country to another. So it wasn't difficult to write South African characters, really. It was well developed. But and I also when I write, I create outlines before I start a book. So it's easy to characterize every movement in the book.
I mean, Wole Soyinka himself sold the book when he spoke about Strangers of Braamfontein and you know, just commenting on that work leading into Murder in Orania as well. You've spoken about the difficult conversations around race, identity, belonging, not limited to South Africa, navigating these issues, someone who's observing, someone who's engaged with the country. And you know, there was actually a quote that said, people know things even when they don't say them. You just have to listen to what they are not saying as well. That was also quite interesting. The silence is loud.
Right. Yes. And Zuko moves in silence to Orania, and getting into the place was also a calculative move. So each of the characters has a role to play in building human understanding of life.
Well, the conversations continue, Onyeka. I'm going to have to leave ours there for now. Enjoy Japan. Thank you for making time. I know we're in a different time zone, but I'm glad it all worked out.
Thank you.
I should say
Thank you.
Pleasure. I should say from Banda and myself. We'll leave our conversation there and continue to tell the stories. Onyeka Nwelue, the author, of course, joining us, Murder in Orania. Quite the crime thriller there through his novel. Again, thank you to him for joining us at this hour and for Unpack.